Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
So speaking of podcasts, one of the things I love about this podcast is that for the most part, we do it every week.
Yes.
We definitely release episodes every week.
Right.
And what that shows is consistency, which is what we're talking about today, consistency.
Yeah. So we're on our Refocus to Rise series. This is the third one, as you mentioned. So
Yeah.
consistency, I think it's underrated oftentimes. And
Mhm.
I think it's also confused with boring.
Yeah.
And it's confused with not progressing and not improving, right? And I think, okay, in some ways you could be so consistent and so habitual you don't improve and get better,
Yeah.
but that's not really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's Kaizen, with principle of constant, never ending improvement, is about consistency, because you have to consistently improve and work. So consistency in itself isn't a bad thing for progress. It really is a great thing for progress, and it's a vital key to progress.
I mean, really, if you want to make progress and you want to achieve results, you have to be consistent. And I actually think that's one of the fears that keeps people from taking first action a lot of the times is the worry that, well, if this works out, like
Right.
if this exercise routine works out, I'm going to have to do this for the rest of my life. And am I going to like that? There's that like fear of the
Hmm.
unknown, of consistency. Like, am I going to enjoy this? And I think looking at consistency, as something that, is more focused on the progress and the action,
Yeah.
small wins, moving forward, just
Right.
daily steps instead of like having to do this specific thing on a daily basis is what helps get over that hurdle. But what we're talking about today is three really usable tactical steps
Right.
to be consistent, to achieve more consistent results in your life into 2026 or wherever you're listening to this.
Right. Yep. So step number one is defining your micro practice, and a micro practice is just how it sounds. It's something small, something subtle, and something that if you do it once, it's not going to have a lot of meaning, not going to be very useful for you at all. But doing these small little tasks consistently, as the title says, that's where the magic and the power happens. That
Yeah.
compound interest effect.
Yeah, and I think the easiest way to make a micro goal, because I think a lot of people listening just say, well, like, great, what is my micro goal? I
Right.
think what you do is you look at your bigger goals, right? You look at the goals that hopefully you have written down and you've
Right.
gone through and you're working through that. But you look at your goals and you say, what's just like a small thing
Hmm.
that I can do consistently on a daily basis to get me toward this thing? Is it,
Right.
deep breaths every morning? Is it a quick walk? Is it water? Is it, one extra phone call a day? Like, what is
Hmm.
the thing that's just small, but it's linked to a larger goal?
Right. The second tip in this is to make it too small to fail. Now we've all heard the expression too big to fail,
Yeah.
but too small to fail. And what I like about this is it builds your habit of doing something, the consistency of it, but it also gives you that sense of accomplishment. And again, if you think, oh, it's so small, why doesn't it even matter? Well, it doesn't matter doing it for a day, and it probably doesn't even matter if you do it just for a week. What we're talking about is you do it over a period of time to make that a habit. I mean, the habit of, okay, I'm gonna get up 10 minutes earlier, and I make that a habit. 10 minutes isn't that much.
Right.
What's going to happen if I continue to stick just to that 10 minutes? Now, what can I do in that 10 minutes?
Hmm.
You mentioned some things. I could do breathing exercises. I could take a quick walk. I could stretch. I could do some push-ups, some other calisthenics. I could read for 10 minutes. How do you think that's going to affect the rest of your day if you start your day with something positive out of those things I listed?
Yeah.
What is that going to do for your day? It's going to make your first day pretty good, but then it's going to compound. After a month, you're like, wow, I feel a lot better. And all it was a 10-minute up a little earlier, and you
Yeah.
did something productive in that 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the power.
And like I think one of the big pieces of this is focusing. And the hardest part is just starting a thing.
Yeah.
And I think focusing on the start of it, and just
Yep.
getting over that. Like that hump is so big sometimes, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Like, we have a treadmill in our basement that sat there, dormant for about 3 years. Like, it was a clothes hanger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wanted to start using it. I remember I was like, I'm just, what, in the morning, I'm just going to go down because it was winter. And I was like,
Yep.
I'm just going to use it for like, 2 miles an hour, a couple
Yep.
minutes, get myself
Yep.
moving. And what that did was it got me on it, and
Yep.
then maybe the workouts for 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, maybe fast,
Right.
maybe slow,
Yep.
but at least it gets over the hook. I think you mentioned reading. I think reading is such a great example because we've all got that book on our nightstand that's been on the same chapter page,
Hmm.
for years. And it's not
Yeah.
the act of reading for 5 minutes, it's that first 10 seconds of
Right.
opening it.
Hmm.
So really focusing our micro task on starting, on just getting over that hump and getting the momentum going.
Right. Yep. So that's step one. That's step one. So that's what are your defining your micro practices? What are you going
Yeah.
to put into thing? Now step two is time blocking your priorities. Now with this, um, it be realistic with it. This is the key. Be specific of what you need to accomplish, but also be realistic. So let's say you have a project that you're going to do at work. I'm going to dedicate 4 or 5 hours to this. Is that really realistic to put an extra 4 or 5 hours in your workday into something? The answer is probably no. But if you do more realistic, I'm gonna spend 20 minutes doing this, or I'm gonna spend 15 minutes doing that. And you kind of mentioned it just a little bit ago about the treadmill. I'm gonna just do it for 5 or 10 minutes, and then that turned into 30 because you felt so good, you know.
Mm.
So, but the key is to be specific and be realistic with what time you have now.
Yeah, and then I think making it non-negotiable. I mean, it's amazing how many non-negotiables we have, on our calendar, but
Yeah,
how few of them focus around things that move our needle forward. We have, doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, things I hear all the time. We get to bring our kids, to games and
yeah,
appointments and all those, like those things all have a very specific schedule, and we
hmm,
work other things around them. Why not make it non-negotiable and try to put that in as an appointment with yourself?
right.
That, hey, I'm going to take a couple minutes and read. Here's where I'm going to do it, or I'm going to listen to an audiobook. We talk about, that net car time all the time.
Hmm. Yeah.
On my drive, I'm going to turn on this audiobook that I've been meaning to listen to,
Hmm.
but making it non-negotiable and just
Right.
saying, I'm not going to miss this no matter what.
And the whole purpose behind all of this is to remove the decision. So if it's scheduled, if it's already there, it's part of your day, it's already a habit, then it's not a decision. Do I feel like doing it or not feel like doing it? It just happens, right? And that's what you want to. That's what I mean by removing that decision. That way, it's not the motivation in the moment. Because how often, if we're sitting down, do we feel like standing up and doing something, right? And especially for relaxing, do
Yeah.
you feel like, oh, I'm only going to sit down just for 10 or 15 minutes, which that turns into an hour or two, and you get in watching a TV show or a video, whatever the case is, right? So we need to make sure that we're removing those decisions so they're just kind of part of it, and then we just execute the plan that we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, but
Much,
that's what,
but I think the more consistent you are and the more you do it, the easier it is. The more you
right.
miss the thing that you're doing, you want to get to that point where when you don't do it, you miss it and you go, oh man, I forgot to do this today. Um, now moving on to step three, which we've talked about in the past, but it's habit stacking. So habit
Yeah,
stacking are micro practices. This is really linking the new habit to something existing, that's automatic. And we're going to start
yeah,
with, identifying what we're going to call a bedrock habit.
yep.
I'm literally singing the theme song of the Flintstones in my head right now. But really finding a trigger you already do every single day. So find something you do every day. That's the anchor, like brushing your teeth, pouring coffee, all those
Right.
things, or getting out of bed. So identify which habits you have during the day. Like we all
Yep.
have these, but they're things that are they're going to happen every day.
Hmm. Yep. And once you identify, it's important that you write down what is your stacking formula. What are you
Yeah.
going to stack together? If you've ever done any bodybuilding or weightlifting or anything like that, one of the things I always loved to do was supersetting. You go from one exercise to the other. It can be done several different ways. You can superset different muscles, or you can superset the same muscle to fatigue. Those are the two main ways to do it. Anyways, you do the same idea with your activities that you're doing. Okay, so what that is let's say I'm going to work and focus, and I'm going to write for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to get up. Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. When I get up, I got to do 10 squats, or I have to do 10 push-ups or something. So I'm stacking me getting up that I have to do. I have to get up every 20 to 30 minutes because I don't want to sit too long, but I also have to do something else, not just get up. I have to do. And how much time does that really add? If I
Yeah.
drop down and do a quick set of 10 push-ups, how long did that take me? 10, 15 seconds, right? If I do 10 squats, same thing. Is that going to ruin your day and throw you off? No, but if you do that several times a day, how many push-ups did you end the day with? You might have done at least 50 push-ups,
Right.
or more each day. Imagine what that's going to do when it compounds. So again, writing down what you're going to do so that way you have a plan is key.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important, and I think the one of the biggest roadblocks is just, especially as it comes, I guess in every aspect of life, but I think one of the biggest roadblocks is the amount of friction, that people run
Yep.
into when they're doing this because, maybe they, say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna use the treadmill, when I'm gonna wake up in the morning and I'm gonna get right on the treadmill for 5 minutes, and then they go downstairs and the treadmill's got laundry on it and
Yep.
things, and then it's now I have to move the stuff and I move the stuff and that takes time and now I'm unmotivated. So I'm just not going to do it,
Yep.
So,
Yep.
we always say preparation is the mother of skill. And I think,
Yep.
in this, it's even more important to make it frictionless and to,
Yep.
try to set up the next shot for what you're going to do. So that there's no hassle in it. It just kind of naturally flows off of your bedrock habit.
Yeah, I remember this was quite a few podcasts ago, and you were mentioning like you want to start running.
Yeah.
Well, the night before, if you're going to run in the morning, the night before, set your shoes out, set your shorts out, your shirt you're going to wear, set everything out ahead of time, so you literally get up and do what you need to do, and then you get dressed and you're ready to go. Versus, where are my running shoes? I
Hmm.
haven't ran in 4 months. Where did those go? Where did my kids put them? Where did my wife put them? Where did I put them? Right? And then, like you said, the same thing with the laundry on your exercise equipment. You're like, oh, now I don't have time to do it because you spent 10 or 15 minutes looking for your running shoes.
Yep.
So I think this is a good point of setting yourself up properly. Set up your next shot. We do that if you play pool billiards. You have to set up your next shot. Same thing with your goals and goal stacking. Set up your next shot.
And I love it because if you're blaming other people for why your next shot isn't set up,
Yeah.
you're probably, you're probably listening to the wrong podcast, right? This should really,
Yeah.
this is where you get to shine and you get to say, like if you have a dog that loves to grab your running shoes and run away with it, then make
Right.
sure you put your running shoes somewhere where the dog's not going to get it.
Exactly.
Put them in a drawer, whatever,
Right.
right? But don't, don't blame other people. Take responsibility to
Right.
take that friction out of the process. So,
Yeah. But the dog
uh,
is so easy to blame
dude, dogs,
because
we
they
blame
can't
them
talk
forever.
back.
And they just love us and look at us like that, and
Yeah.
you're like, hey, sorry, buddy.
Sorry.
You can't answer, so you are the butt of the blame. But anyway, so talking about our Refocus to Rise series, number three, consistency.
Yep.
That discipline over motivation. So, step one, let's go recap. Step one was defining our micro practice, right? Linking it to a larger goal, something that's meaningful to you, making that task too small to fail. So it's something that we're going to be able to do consistently, and not even focusing on the amount of time it's going to take, but just focusing on getting over that hump of starting, because that's
Right.
really, I feel like where most people trip up.
Yep, for sure. Now, step two is your time blocking your priorities. Okay. And what this is about is make sure they're specific, make sure they're realistic. And then from there, make them non negotiable and then remove the decision. Okay. So remove the decision so it's just automatic, it's part of your schedule, it just kind of happens. That
Yeah.
way you're relieving any friction that you might have.
Yeah. And then number three, habit stack. This is where the rubber meets the road, really. We're going to identify our bedrock habit. So all those habits that we do every day naturally, we're going to identify those and write them down. We're going to look at those and see where it makes sense to plug in all those micro tasks, those micro actions that we're going to take. And then we're going to remove as much friction as we can. So we're going to try to set up that next shot for success so that when that bedrock action happens, we get into our new habit that we're trying to fit in. It's effortless and it happens consistently. And then we're just going to rinse, repeat, keep going.
Rinse and
Um,
repeat.
and that wraps up this episode. I'm still singing the Flintstone song in my head. So
Of course you are.
nobody gets that though, because nobody, right.
No,
Uh,
you're too old.
I'm too old. But anyway,
Yeah.
that wraps up this episode of the Achieve Results Now podcast. Um, Make sure to share this with somebody who would like it. We will see you on the next episode.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.